Hi everybody, this is Kerry with the Walkin on the Boulevard podcast. This is episode number 2, and in this episode we're going to talk a little bit about the Graceland Mansion Tour in Memphis, Tennessee, so stick around.
Let's rock and roll, here we go! Come on! Alright! Well, stop, look and listen, baby, that's my philosophy. Come on, help me out! Well, it's corner up and making, baby. Well, that's alright with me. Well, stop, look and listen, baby. That's my philosophy. Well, it's corner up and making, baby. Well, that's alright with me. Keep it going. Some people say I'm wasting time. Yeah, they don't really know. See what I like what I see. Hey, such a first thing in the morning, last thing at night. Well, I look, stare everywhere, and I see everything inside. Hey, stop, look and listen, baby. That's my philosophy. Oh, it's corner up and making, baby. Well, that's alright with me. How you doing here? Some people say I'm wasting time, and they don't really know. See what I like what I see. Hey, it's such a love, hey. Sitting on the back porch, come on, all by myself. In a walking machine, I wish somebody else. Stop, look and listen, baby. That's my philosophy. It's corner up and making, baby. That's alright with me. Hey, baby. That's alright with me. Well, up and making, baby. That's alright with me. Take it off.
Here's an interview clip I did with Franz Govarts on his first trip to Memphis. We did this interview at Elvis Week 2015. This was actually shot at Dad's place in the old Clarion.
When was your first trip to Memphis?
My first time in Memphis was in 1996, and I was 19 years old, so it's next year it will be 20 years ago.
Can you tell me a little bit about your first trip here?
Oh Lord, it was terrible because my English was so bad. I can't even ask a pen to sign the pictures. I will remember that all my life. And a lot of things was different. Memphis was really different, and the store was different. Elvis store and everything was different. And but I still have great memories of that part of Memphis in 96, 97, 98, and yeah, it was great, really. And I grew up over here. Every year I came, I learned your language, try to learn your language, because after 20 years I'm still wrong sometimes. But that's me, and yeah, I grew up here 19 years ago.
Here's Faded Love by tribute artist Richard Wolff. This was done at Dad's place at Elvis Week 2017.
We can get dirty on you. We can have some fun. All right, everybody. As I read the letter for you wrote to me, was you love as I read the lines that to me were so sweet. I remember how many young people. We'll do that. Hi, baby. Nice to see you. Last 20 pounds, 12 inch penis. That works. This is the wife we're gonna marry. You guys don't know yet, but this is my mom I never had. I know it's a video, but I'm concerned with the job. Yeah. I remember.
First time I went was in the late 80s. I went with my mother and brother, and I don't recall if they had shuttles back then or not. I know they had shops across the street, but I can't remember if we walked up the driveway or if someone drove us over there. But anyway, I remember going up there, going through the house, and back then they didn't have the headsets and iPads or whatever that they have now. Back then they used to have these things called, what were they called? Oh yeah, tour guides. And ours was a redheaded lady, really, really nice lady. I remember her telling us some Elvis stories when we got up to the mansion's front door, and then started leading us through. And back then there wasn't a whole lot to see, not compared to today. Back then you saw the living room, the dining room, the staircase, jungle room, pool room, what else? The TV room, racquetball court, trophy room, and the cars that were in the carport. Yeah, back then they weren't in the museum. They used to have the cars still sitting in the carport, so you could go over there and take pictures with them, or in some cases, like me and my brother, you could actually climb inside them and get your mother to take photos of you inside there so that you could have them years later to put in your Elvis Week book, which is called Don't Ask Me to Say Thank You. Thank you very much. Yeah, we did that. I don't know how we got away with it, but we did. We took our picture in 3 or 4 different cars that belonged to Elvis Presley, and we didn't even get kicked off the tour. I'm not sure about why that didn't happen, but nowadays if you get close to any of Elvis's stuff, a voice will come on and say, please step away from the vehicle. Thank you very much. And if you refuse to do so, they have guards that will shoot you. So anyway, let's fast forward to the 2013, 2014, which will be the last time I went on the mansion tour. So nowadays, I'm not exactly sure if they've opened anything else up, but I know they've changed some of the memorabilia that you see. You don't see the same stuff you were seeing before, or all of the same stuff. You see some of it, but they've added a lot of new stuff, and they've moved a lot of stuff from the house over to the new Memphis complex, which is across the street, right behind where the old Graceland Plaza complex was. So now here's what you see. When you first walk in, you get to see the living room. Yeah, I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's really, really cool. It's a big living room. It's all done in whites and blues. Really long couch. If you are a big Elvis fan, I know you've seen photos of Elvis in the 60s laying back with a guitar on the couch. This is the couch you see. Now when he died, they had a different design going on in there. It was a lot more red, 70s look. It had shag carpet and all that good stuff, but for some reason when Priscilla took over and they were going to open the house to the public, they decided they wanted to go back to the look of the 60s, back when she was there, because Elvis and her have been divorced for a good while before he passed away. And I think Linda Thompson may have been the one that came up with the idea for the 70s look, the red look. So anyway, for whatever reason, they went back to the 60s look, which is it's pretty cool. Personally, I think they should change it every once in a while. Be like, now come for this, this month we're going to show you what the house looked like when Elvis died, and change it that way just to let people see what it looked like. But anyway, so you go in there, you go walk in the front door, you see that big white couch, you see the big staircase leading upstairs. Now they don't let you go upstairs, unfortunately, and I'm sure lots of people have tried to go upstairs. I'm sure people have tried to talk them into letting them up, bribe them, maybe even take off running. I actually asked a guard one time what would happen if I took off running, and he said they would just get me and take me across the street. It wouldn't tase you or anything, which was comforting, but my mother would have gotten really mad, so I didn't do it. So you get to see the staircase, and you can even lean over, and if you lean over right, you can see some of Elvis Presley's bedroom door. It's got this black leather looking stuff all over the door. You can't see much of the door. You can only see like a foot or two of it, but if you lean over, you can see it. And upstairs is also Lisa Marie's bedroom and the bathroom where Elvis passed away. Unfortunately, like I said, you don't get to see any of that, but if you look hard enough on the internet, you can find photos that people have taken from the 60s and 70s. So when you first come in, you can see Elvis's piano. It's in a far corner. I'm pulling a lot of this from memory, so I can't remember exactly where everything is, but you do see his piano. You see the dining room table, where at Christmas time they set up a Christmas tree next to it, and they have the whole house decorated really nice. It's really cool looking. But from what I hear, Lisa Marie and Priscilla and some other family members still come to the house from time to time, and will have a meal at that table, which is pretty cool. You also get to see the kitchen. Now the kitchen is really crazy looking because it's got that 70s look to it. It's really cool. It's, I think, brown. A lot of the wood paneling and all in there is brown. There's an old-timey, huge microwave. I mean, it looks like you could put a small child in that thing and cook it. When I first went my first trip, you didn't get to see that because Elvis's aunt was still living in the house in the 80s, so they wouldn't let you see the kitchen. But nowadays, you can go check out the kitchen. You can't go into the kitchen, but you can look inside there and see what it looked like when Elvis was alive. You also get to see Vernon and Gladys's bedroom, and I believe during my first trip, I think this is where Elvis's aunt was living. So you weren't able to see that then, but there was some room, and it may have been that room. There was some room that had a velvet rope. I talk about this in my book. There's a velvet rope in front of the door, so you couldn't go in. My brother took off under the rope, and I took off after him, with my mother flipping out, losing her mind, pulling her hair out. And I went and got my brother and came back out, but I can't recall which room that was. But yes, we got to go in one of Elvis's rooms, so that was pretty cool. Okay, well then, after you see Vernon and Gladys's room, you go down a mirrored staircase, and down on the lower level you get to see what a lot of people's favorite room is, the jungle room. I like the jungle room a lot. I think it's really cool. It's just crazy looking. It's got this waterfall going on one side of it, and they have it lit up. It looks really cool. They have a huge coffee table made out of like I guess petrified piece of wood or something. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's just a really neat room to check out. A lot of people don't like it though. My mother hated that room. She thought it was just the worst taste of anything she saw on the tour. She hated it, but I thought it was really cool. I would love to have a waterfall in my house if I had a house and money to buy a waterfall. I don't know why I would need one, but I just think it would be really cool to be like, hey, come here, you want to see my waterfall? Also on the downstairs tour, you get to see the TV room. The TV room is a cool looking room. It's you hear about Elvis getting mad watching TV and shooting TV, so they've got 3 TVs lined up. So if he gets mad enough, he could pop 3 different TVs back to back. This whole room is done in blues and yellows, I believe, and there's also a bar in there, a yellow bar. And on one of the tours, I went in there and I wanted to take my picture sitting on a bar stool at the bar, and I actually handed my camera to one of the guards, and she took it for me. And then she told me I'm not supposed to be sitting on it, but at that point, I'd already got my picture taken on the bar stool. So, also on the tour, you get to see the pool room. It's got a pool table, and then the walls and ceiling are covered in carpet. It's really cool looking. I'm not really sure why the carpet's on the ceiling and walls, unless it was an acoustic thing. Maybe, when they did the jungle room sessions, maybe they recorded some in there or something. I'm not really sure why that's there, but it's a really cool look, and I've never seen anybody else who had carpet on their wall and ceilings. Also upstairs, there's also a green carpet on the walls upstairs. I mean, in the entry, the level that you enter the house on, there's some green carpet, and I have a couple of pieces of that in my collection. Yes, I have carpet in my collection. So let's see what else is downstairs. Pool room, TV room, and jungle room, and mirrored staircase. So then you go out and you see Lisa Marie Swingset, which that was not there when I went on the tour in the 80s and early 90s, but they added it. I guess maybe the late 90s, early 2000s, they put her Swingset there so people could check it out. Then you go over to the, so you see the racquetball court, which for a long time they had housed a lot of jumpsuits and trophies and different things like that, different pieces of memorabilia over there. But from what I've heard, it has been turned back into the racquetball court, which I haven't been on the tour in 3 or 4 years, so I don't know exactly how it looks now. I wish I had been on it. I'd like to put some pictures of what it looks like now. You get to see that, and when I was a kid, I remember going through and seeing all those jumpsuits and just losing my mind, just checking out all this stuff. Like, it's hard to believe. You watch these concerts like Aloha from Hawaii, and you see him in this jumpsuit. I know some people like to make fun of him for this, but I always thought the jumpsuits were really cool. And to get that close to the jumpsuits, it's just really awesome. And I also didn't realize how many there were. There's bazillions of them. And there's even more. There's a bunch of them that are on the market that other people own. And I mean, every once in a while I want to come up for sale somewhere. So there's a whole lot of jumpsuits out there. You also get to see a lot of the trophies and awards that were presented to him over the years. And there's a big, let's see, what is it? There's a thing with a whole bunch of different checks that he gave to charities. It's crazy too. You look at the amount of money that he gave to charity over the years. It's astounding. No wonder he was broke. Then you get to see Vernon Presley's office, which has a lot of like fan mail, like gifts that people sent Elvis over the years that are just sitting out in there. And I think there's some books that Elvis had read that are on display inside Vernon's office. They opened up this little shooting. It's a small little room with just a place where I guess he would do target practice. It's real small though. It's a wonder that there weren't any ricochets and somebody got killed. But they've dug bullets up from I guess the walls and the ground or whatever, and they've got those on display and some targets. I think there's like a smokehouse. All this stuff I didn't even realize was there on my early trips. It wasn't until I guess the 2000s when I started going to the house on a regular basis that I started seeing all this stuff I had never seen before. So you get to see that. There's a bunch of old bikes hanging up inside there. And then recently they've opened the stables up. I haven't been to the stables yet, but that doesn't... I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing it once, I guess, just to say I'd been to the stables. But I mean, I don't know what in the world that could be in there. Piles of crap, I guess. But up until recently, there was still a horse that Elvis had owned, but it passed away, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago, and so now it's all horses they've gotten since Elvis' passing. I had no idea horses lived that long either. That's a really long time for a horse to live, or for an animal to live. I've had cats before that lived 10 years, and you'd be doing cartwheels. Couldn't believe they had lived that long. So then the last thing that you see on the tour is Meditation Gardens and the pool area. There's a lot of footage online of Elvis swimming in the pool, so you get to see that online. That's kind of cool. Unfortunately, you can't go over. I would love to have put my hand in the pool. They won't let you do that. And you can go to Meditation Gardens where Elvis, Gladys, Vernon, and Minnie Mae are all buried. It's weird though, as close as Elvis was with his mother, he's actually not next to her. He's in between his grandmother and father, so I'm not really sure what that's about, why they did that. But I don't think he would have liked that too much. There's a cool picture I found online of Colonel Tom Parker, who's standing at Meditation Gardens looking down at Elvis's grave. He's looking really sad. So it's a pretty cool picture. After you do the tour, then you head back across the street and you tour the airplanes, or most people tour the airplanes. There's 2 of them for those of you who aren't familiar. There's the Lisa Marie and the Hound Dog. There's not much to them. You just go on, you walk through, and one of the planes, I guess it's the Lisa Marie, has a bed in it. But like I said, there's really not much to the planes. You walk in, you look, you turn around, you walk out, and they've still got all the 70s looking stuff inside there. So anyway, the planes, I saw the planes 2 or 3 times, and that was enough for me. I didn't really care that much. Although a couple of years ago they were talking about losing the planes. They had told the person who was leasing them to them that they needed to get the planes out of there because they didn't want them anymore. And then they ended up buying them. So I guess that was maybe a ploy to get a good deal on them. So because they ended up buying them and now they're still on display. But that's it for the tour unless you do all of the museums and gift shops there. So I think I covered everything. I don't think I missed anything from the tour. Like I said, most of the memorabilia, the automobiles, all that stuff is no longer at the house. You have to go to the new complex where they have a museum where there's a lot more cars, a lot more vehicles on display now over there than there were before. And then they've got the jumpsuits in these little glass cases, so you can get right up to all the jumpsuits and different, like the wedding outfit that he and Priscilla wore. Those are on display. You get right up to them too. It's hard to take really good photos though because of the glare off of the glass. But I'll try to, if I end up putting this podcast on YouTube, I'll try and get some pictures to go along with this so you can see some of the stuff that I'm talking about. But anyway, if you're an Elvis fan, or even if you're just a fan of music in general, you should definitely make a trip to Memphis and check out Graceland. It's not the cheapest tour in the world, but it's a must-see for any real diehard Elvis fan or music fan in general. Yeah, definitely check that out. All right, thanks for tuning in. This is Kerry with Walkin on the Boulevard, and I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if there's something you want me to do a story on in the Elvis world, and if you're an Elvis tribute artist or a manager of an Elvis tribute artist and you have an upcoming tour you want me to promote, just let me know. You can contact me through outlawfilmproductions@gmail.com. Thanks. See you guys next time.
I'd like to tell you what a fantastic, and I'd like to do this song especially for you. From Blue Hawaii. Swingset.